Hello, dear readers. I'm excited to be here with you again today. For those of you who are new to our journey or perhaps haven't seen me in person, I'm Kate, and I'm the author of Soul Primer, Building Blocks of the Soul. That book that we've all been traveling through for the last 20 weeks, or for some of us, much longer. And thank you for being here today. This is our soul journey snapshots, where we basically meet virtually our trailmates on the journey. And so today I'm excited to introduce to you Judith Shaw. And Judith is one of the three artists who contributed to the beautiful artwork in Soul Primer. Judith actually painted the cover too, to my request. Basically, when I related to her a dream and a vision that I had, she was able to put it onto canvas. And actually, you know what, I didn't think about this, but I actually have it. So I have the actual full painting up there.
Oh,
Yeah. And anyway, so she was really instrumental in helping this whole project come together. So welcome, Judith.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And Judith and I actually just realized that we hadn't actually met in person. So the other two artists of the book were local artists, and but Judith is out of Albuquerque, and she was new to me. I met her kind of under unusual circumstances, sort of. I mean, I sort of became fascinated with reindeer and the reindeer goddess, and through that found her online because Judith has created a beautiful deck of goddess cards and has some beautiful reindeer paintings as well. So anyway, so Judith, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about how you became an artist, for starters.
Well, I think I was actually always an artist. I mean, from the time I was little, I was always painting and drawing. And I have this picture of myself when I was about, maybe 4 years old, with my two older sisters, one of them who's looking very prim and proper, and the other who's kind of spacey looking. And I'm like, just looking at my fingers, like, what can I do with these?
Funny.
So, I've always really been drawn to creative work. And when I was young, I decided that I was going to go into fine art, and I studied fine art. I grew up in New Orleans, and I had started my degree program there, and then decided I needed to drop out and be more like a hippie or whatever and do crazy things. And I ended up living in San Francisco and getting my degree in painting at the San Francisco Art Institute.
Oh, okay.
And so then ever since, basically, that's always been my primary goal and focus in life, is my art. And unlike many people who go ahead and develop a career and do art on the side, I kind of just never could do that. And so I just always did whatever I had to do to survive and kept focusing on my art.
That's
and
awesome.
It's been a journey that's brought me, I'm still doing it. And the online reality has made it much easier for artists who don't fit into the mold of what the art world is looking for, which my art is not. It's made it much easier for us to reach the world and to actually make some kind of a living from it.
So that's interesting that you say your art doesn't fit into the mold, because I mean, I think your art is stunning and beautiful. And every picture I see that, that you have, I'm like, wow. And it really resonates with me. So how do you think your art is different? What's your style?
Well, okay. If you were to, the art world, we could divide up into a few different levels or categories. So you've got the people who sell at art markets, which I've done in recent years. And then you've got the people who are in galleries. And then you've got the people who win the awards, and they're in the biennials, and they get the grants and all of that kind of stuff. So that's like the art world.
Okay.
And so of course, graduating from the Art Institute, and I graduated in 1985, long before there was an internet. And the only avenue you had was to find a gallery. And I mean, I've got a rejection pile a mile high from galleries that I applied to, that shows that I tried to get into, because
Join the life of the writer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it seems like either the galleries want you to be doing what everybody else is doing at the moment, and then the biennials and the awards and the this and the that. It's more all the modern art world is interested in conceptual art, which is about you think something and then you like, I think that I want to show the relationship of this line to the edge of the canvas.
Okay.
And that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I have any interest in doing. They don't really want anything that has a spiritual or mystical basis to it.
How fascinating. You know, I
But
remember
people
going
do.
going to a Gauguin exhibit. And, you know, of course, Gauguin, you know, painted all those really naive kind of
Yeah.
Tahitian women, right? I mean, they were different, totally different style than was normal in Paris at that time. And he was scorned
Yeah.
by the art community, you know, and yet he's, of course, his paintings are worth millions now. So, you know, it's interesting how that goes. But so tell us about what makes your art special. What kind, I mean, what style do you create? I don't know if you have anything you can show us, but you know, anyway, actually, I have some that I can show you because in fact, I have a bunch of it in my book. So this, for example, and I've heard a number of people say oh, I love this picture.
Oh, well, you know, that's funny because that picture, that painting was inspired by a book that I was reading by Elizabeth Cunningham. She has this amazing series that is like a Celtic version of Mary Magdalene, who was a Celtic goddess maid.
Oh, okay.
And she has like a beautiful facility with words when she's describing nature. And there was a scene in the book, and it had to do with the goddess and a tree and stars. And it inspired me so much. And I did a couple of studies, and then I did a painting from it.
Yeah, so you do a lot of goddess stuff. So
Yeah.
you're a fan of the goddess, which I am too. Let's
Yeah.
hear about goddesses. And you do a lot of nature stuff, for
Yeah.
sure. Lots of trees. And again, I was talking with one of the other artists of the book yesterday, and we both love trees, totally a tree people. So
yeah.
But a lot of people, for some reason, really related to that picture with the rooted, you know, that element of being rooted. So that's
Yeah.
rooted.
Yeah.
And here's a couple other pictures from Judith. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, everything that you do, Judith, I just love. So
Thank you.
that's that one, and that one is for Z is for Zen, not to blow it for those of you who haven't reached Z yet. But
And those are from when I was working on my series of sacred geometry.
yeah, tell us about that sacred geometry, because for a lot of people, we probably don't really know what that is.
Well, I had the opportunity to take a trip to China with my sister back, I think it was like the spring of 2001.
Okay.
And, you know, I mean, it was a feng shui trip, actually.
Wow.
And we went to lots of temples and monasteries, and we saw lots and lots and lots of Buddhas. And I don't know where I actually saw the interlocking circles, but I was seeing them on that trip, but I wasn't consciously aware of it. And when I got home, I did one of the first, that blue one you had shown, the blue flower mandala. I did one that is more like yellow. And that was the first one I had done. And then I started doing some others similar. And then I had a show, and somebody said, oh, did you read Michel Devec's book on sacred geometry? And I'm like, no, what's sacred geometry?
Yeah.
So and then I delved into it, and I learned a lot, and then I got more into it. And now I haven't so much done completely just the sacred geometry recently. It's more like a lot of sacred geometry gets embedded into other images.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I guess I hadn't really connected, but that is a mandala.
Yes.
And, it's one of the things that I talk about. I've been teaching throughout this, you know, book about, like, when in our C is for creativity, we talk about, hey, take the time to make a mandala. And mandalas are just sacred circles that are found all throughout the world, the natural world.
Right, right.
Yeah, so that's cool. There's a picture of the reindeer that Judith did. So so in your necklace actually isn't that an example of sacred geometry?
I'm not sure if the Celtic knots are considered part of sacred geometry or not. I
No.
mean, it's definitely a sacred symbol,
Sure.
but I'm not sure if it fits into the sacred geometry. I really don't know.
So and this was so Judith also did the back of the book, which is
That's a large painting.
it's
The olive.
faded out with this on top of it. But as you can see, so you have spirals and squares around this. And then when I asked her to do the cover, so I wanted the infinity symbols. That was part of my vision. And then you wanted to add the sacred geometry of the square.
Yeah.
Angle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like one of the concepts in sacred geometry is this union of heaven and earth, the square being earth and the circle being heaven.
Oh, okay.
And so you'll have the square, the circle, the square around the circle. And so it's that pulling together of that energy.
Oh, how beautiful. I didn't know that. That's beautiful. And
Yeah.
it's funny because in I think W is for wonder. I mentioned that, Jesus said, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven unless you become a child. And I have always said, kingdom of heaven is earth, is right here on earth. And when we become a child and we become open to that wonder of our natural world, we're basically already there.
Yeah.
We're already in heaven. We're right here. And certainly in our natural world, which we all need to be cognizant of preserving a little bit better, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you do do you do anything particular to inspire yourself?
The concept of inspiration is kind of interesting. And a lot of times, I mean, I've taught and I've done workshops and, in art, and I did a little bit of teaching in the schools, and sometimes it was art. And people would often say, well, but I just don't have any inspiration.
Yeah.
Well, inspiration is 1% of the formula, and the rest of the work is the 99%. So you could get up in the morning and say, I want to paint, but I don't have any inspiration. Well, you just have to start doing something, and the inspiration will come. And I get very inspired. It took me a long time in my life to realize how connected my visual artwork is with the written word. I get very inspired by the things that I read and stories. I mean, like having read this description of this experience with the tree and the star and the goddess in Elizabeth Cummingham's book resulted in some paintings.
Right.
Yeah.
And
then I've done a number of, in the past, I used to always only work in oil, and it was always pretty large. And even when I was doing that, and coming from that quote art world, I wanted things to be kind of realistic, but I didn't really want it to be 100% there because it's so abstract in the world. But it's not only that. I think I was always trying to express the belief that the physical and the spiritual are one, and they're all here together. And so I don't want the physical to be like 100% like a photo. I want the spiritual to be embedded in that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like I did a series of large paintings on Beauty and the Beast. My whole first delving into the goddess was a series on Inanna, which was based on her story from, the ancient days. I did a series on Joan of Arc. And I wasn't really kind of, in my own mind, I wasn't connecting the dots to the writing I wasn't doing the writing, but I was reading the stuff.
Yeah.
And then I guess it was in 2012 that I just accidentally started working on my deck of Celtic goddess cards. And once I started doing that, I became more aware of how actually now for me, it's sort of tied together, the writing and the art. So I do the writing, and then that gives inspiration for the art, or I do some art, and then that gives inspiration for writing.
Yeah.
It's always something mythical that is interesting to me.
Yeah. So you said a couple things that I want to pick up on. So one was, you used the word awareness. And I think that, I think that that's really where it all comes from, is being aware of and awake to those little sparks of what you can call inspiration or whatever. It's like, oh, because I mean, I teach people that, you have let's see, that's backwards on that screen, but a masculine and a feminine side. And your feminine side is the receptive side. It's the side that basically receives oh, I feel like writing a poem. And the masculine side is the side that does it.
Yeah, you got to do it. You can't just feel it.
You can just go, oh, I feel like writing a poem. But unless you get out there and do it, how messy it is or how incorrect it is, it doesn't really matter. You feel like, oh, gosh, I'd love to paint that picture. But until you go do it, it doesn't happen. So it's a combination of having that feeling and then doing it. And that's where a lot of people fall down on. They don't do it.
Yeah.
People say they're not creative. Well, they are. It's just they have to learn to be aware to catch that spark of a sentiment. Like, wouldn't that be a beautiful picture? And then go do it.
Or the reverse, in that maybe they don't even have that spark happening yet.
Yeah.
And what I've discovered for myself, it's like, so it's not
a paintbrush.
exactly. It's like, I'm like, maybe if I've gone a little while, like a couple of weeks, and I haven't been able to paint or something, which unfortunately happens. And it's not quite as the same now as when I was younger, because I've been painting for so long, but I have to like sort of prime the pump, so to speak.
Okay.
So I don't even know what I'm going to do or where I'm going, but I need to do something. And so then it's just kind of like working without any preconceived thought of anything, just putting paint down on a canvas or on a piece of paper and moving it around and then seeing what I see out of it.
Yeah.
And that can then open something up, and then I get the inspiration of where I want to go.
I love that. Those are
work even before.
See, now, and you told, you told me a while back that you did creative art workshops or class. And that's such great advice. And a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm not creative. What great advice is that? To just start doing it.
Start doing it. And you don't have to worry about what it looks like. You don't have to show it to anybody.
That's right.
Nobody's going to grade you.
So I want to ask you, I don't think I've seen your Joan of Arc series, and I really want to take a look at that, because in fact, I feel a little bit like Joan of Arc. And, so I was reading about her, and, she was 16 years old when she went out and led the army to stop the 100 Years' War. I mean, at that point, the 100 Years' War had been going on for so long that nobody could even remember a time when there wasn't war, wasn't conflict, and there wasn't divisiveness. I mean, kind of like right now, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so here she was, this little 16-year-old girl tending her sheep in the fields, and she went out and changed the world. And I love a quote that she has supposedly had said in 1472 or whatever it was. She said, "Though I would rather have stayed seated by my mother's side, weaving wool, yet must I go and do this thing." And then she said, then she said, I think if not for me, the world will not be saved. And I love that line. I mean, I love that for myself, because I feel like it's my job to save the world, and it's your job, and it's everybody's job. And until we all get up from our fireside and goes out there and start changing the world, it's like, the 100 Years' War, the divisiveness, the war, the destruction is going to continue unless every one of us steps up to make a difference.
Well, and the only thing from my point of view that is going to change the world is when we change our consciousness.
That's right. One by person. That's exactly the reason.
Because we can have another ism, another war, and it looks like, I mean, look at how many wars there's been throughout history. And do we have peace? Do we have equality?
Does a new government change it? Does a new regime change it? Does a new plan change it?
Ongoing, because it's the same mentality.
Yes. Yeah. Sister, we are on the same path.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I totally love your art. And I know that you have a website. So I'm going to put the links to how to see Judith's art down at the bottom beneath our video today. And I'm sure that we could talk a lot longer.
Oh yeah, we could go on and on and on.
Yeah, for sure. But I do know, and I do know that a lot of your art, a lot of your images are nature related. So again,
Yes.
reminder to everybody, get out there in nature because nature is a great inspirer. You get, it has a sort of a magic effect on
Hug a
awakening.
tree. Go hug a tree.
Go hug a tree.
You'll feel its strength. It'll come to you and ground you.
We just got done with R is for rooted, and that's actually a great idea to go out when you do that rooted exercise, because we practice getting rooted, like feeling the roots going through our body down all the way down into Mother Earth. Wouldn't that be great to do it while you're hugging a tree?
Well, because when you think of it, that's the tree is that which unites heaven and earth.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
grounded into the earth and the branches are reaching
Yeah.
up to the sky.
I actually start a lot of my meditations by envisioning, but I say where the toes or getting, actually what I do is I get my consciousness into the space where the toes or oh gosh, the toes of the fingers of the trees reach the toes of the stars.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Exactly.
that space, because
Yeah.
the trees connect us to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh. Anyway, it's so fun to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to let you go, and thank you so much
Okay.
for joining us today, and thank all of your readers for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judith. Bye.
Bye.
I don't know if I stopped that or not. I think I did. I have to put on my glasses.
Bye.
Yeah, it's paused. Good. No way.